My next guest in studio is Kathy Strong of Strong Travel Media and resident of Palm Desert. A travel writer for over 30 years, she has published several travel guides and is the former editor of Desert Magazine, a monthly publication of the Desert Sun. She currently writes, among other things, the travel column Going My Way, also for the Desert Sun. And Kathy, it's great to have you here, even though I know you came in with laryngitis.
It's wonderful to be here, so thank you. Thank your listeners for putting up with my voice. Sexy, raspy voice today.
Yeah, sexy, raspy.
Yeah.
Well, probably some actresses would love to have that voice. Well, listeners, we were talking in the previous two segments to Sherry Halperin about her life after widowhood, where she felt like she wanted to meet someone, and everything that she went through with that. So we're going to continue that theme of the single gals. Now, of course, we emphasize the fact that Sherry was a widow. However, there are a lot of single women out in the world and here in the Valley who are both divorcees, single, professional gals, and widows. And Kathy, I know you get a lot of questions from women about, first of all, traveling alone. What's the first thing that you tell them?
Well, that they're in good company. The last census said that there were more than 1/3 of the travelers out there are solo traveling. And I think this census may show even more. I try to tell them to not look at it as a negative, but an extremely positive, possibly life-changing thing in their life. I like to say it's sort of like writing the script to your own movie and then starring in it. You get to make your vacation any way you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so you kind of encourage them to be brave about it and not to worry too much about it.
Absolutely. And I don't even use the word brave, to be honest, because that is almost negative, too.
Well, I know, but that's in essence what it is.
But it's true.
Get your guts together, girl, and do it, right?
There are a lot of fears associated with it that don't need to be fears.
Right.
There are a lot of ways that if it really comes down to the ultimate self-indulgence, being able to plan this trip, go and do what you want, when you want, talk to who you want, exactly the way you want to do it. So, we don't think anything of indulging in a spa day. So we should put this in that same category as a luxury. It's something we can give ourselves.
We should, but most gals don't, and they're more comfortable staying in familiar surroundings and not going too far away. And a lot of it is, I'm sure, insecurity and nervousness, and probably shouldn't be. So how do you encourage them to take the first step?
Okay. Well, it is about confidence. And it's about having confidence in yourself. And, when we're going to go do something that's not familiar to us, we do that wonderful self-talk where we boost up our confidence level and say, I can do this. This is me. Well, it's no different. And people really can tell if you're confident about something or not. It comes across very quickly in your posture, in your speak, in your eye contact. So the first thing I recommend is feel totally confident. And one of the ways we feel confident over our fears is being in control of our fears. And if you're afraid to be in an unfamiliar situation because you think someone might hurt you or you might be in danger, you need to get on top of that. And there's lots of ways you can feel safe about your surroundings no matter where you go, pretty much. I mean, there's certain places don't go, but a lot of that is common sense. And you would do that walking around our valley. There's certain things you would do and not do.
Well, do you encourage them to, if maybe for the first time, for instance, we're not too far from Idlewild. Do you suggest, okay, maybe the first thing you could do is get in the car, drive up to Idlewild, stay there overnight, and experience that?
That's a perfect example,
Take
Jacqueline.
that baby step.
Yeah, it's a baby step. It's not far from home. They don't have to travel very far in the car. It's a safe environment. It's friendly, familiar to most people who live here. But, there's a lot of things like that they can do. Of course, a short trip near the desert is great, close to home. They may even want to expand it to more of a vacation. You know, they could do a spa package somewhere. They could go on a photo safari, you know, look at their hobbies, something they like to do. What I think most people think when they travel alone is that they're just surrounded by strangers. Well, strangers are just you and me. It's just people they haven't met yet.
Well, that's the point, and that's my next question, because you, of course, travel solo a lot in your work, and you've had many pleasant experiences. You told me about one that happened in Laguna Beach.
Yes.
Tell that story.
Well, I'm trying to remember that one. I have so many.
It was, you met a very interesting person there.
Did. Yes, that was Bozo the Clown.
Well,
who is no longer with us, unfortunately. What a lovely man and his wife.
Tell how that happened. You were sitting there.
I was dining alone at a very well-known bistro, 5 Feet, and I was on a writing trip, and I was on the whole trip alone, and I'm sitting there, and you know, I frankly have no problem dining alone. I do a lot of people watching. I savor my food. I enjoy the surroundings. I don't feel the need to put my face in a book, but a lot of people, you know, are uncomfortable with this. I saw a lot of people going up to the couple behind me, right behind me, talking to them and kissing them and hugging them. And I thought, gee, this must be a celebrity or someone local, well-known. And so I finally asked the maitre d' who this might be, and he told me. Of course, I didn't recognize him without his clown makeup.
Right, I don't think I would either.
What a lovely couple. And they smiled at me. I returned a smile and said, you know, who I was, and they said, please come join us.
Well, wasn't that nice?
I reminded him of Dinah Shore in the early days of television. He'd worked with her quite a bit. We had a lovely, lovely rest of the dinner conversation. I joined them the following night at the Surf and Sand for dinner, where they were staying and I was staying. Mm-hmm. So we became friends.
And that wouldn't have happened if you weren't sitting there alone.
When you're with someone else, of course, there are many benefits in that. But when you are alone, you are more open to experiences such as that. You know, meeting other people you might not meet. Because you're not involved with another person, you do become involved with your environment a little bit more.
Well, this would be a good time, I think, to talk a little bit about some of the safety issues that you do offer to women if they are going to do this, especially they're just getting started. And I'm sure most women kind of think about those things, but maybe there's things that they haven't thought of or don't want to think about. So what do you advise them in that way?
Well, and it is good to know, and I still practice these things myself. Basically, you know, the hotel situation is, most of it is common sense. But if you're dealing with a foreign destination, or just foreign to you, I should put it that way, use your common sense. You know, you don't go down any alleys, dark alleys at night by yourself. You stay among other people.
You don't get on an elevator by yourself.
And if you have a bet, trust your instincts. Right. I've had this happen recently where I was going to get on an elevator going up to a floor that was just if you had a certain key, and somebody jumped on with me, and I did not go.
Did you immediately get
I
off?
Left. I said I forgot something, and I got off the elevator.
I've had that experience,
and that was just my sense kicked in.
Right.
Now, could have been just fine, but there was just something there that said, I'm alone, I'm vulnerable.
Listen to your gut.
Listen to your gut at all times for everything. Don't dress like a tourist, especially in a foreign country, you know. Blend in. Don't wear flashy jewelry. Leave that at home. Or save it for a dinner in the hotel where you're not out and about. Don't flash your key around, your room key. Luckily, keys have changed through the years for hotels. They're pretty nondescript. But once in a while, you run into a place that has the number and the name or whatever. And, you know, make sure no one sees that. You don't want to identify yourself with the location they could find you at, just in case. Make friends with your hotel. The staff at your hotel, they're going to make you more at ease than anything. You know, let them give you directions, order a taxi, do whatever you need. Get 2 keys when you check in. They'll ask if you want 1 or 2. Say, I take 2.
Yes.
Then nobody knows in the staff whether you're there alone or you're with someone else. And that's a good,
so you don't tell them I'm traveling alone.
Well, the person who checks you in would know that.
Yeah.
But they always ask if you want one or two keys.
Right.
It's just nobody else would know that.
Right.
And you have to trust somebody. I do trust the people who check you in. If somebody comes to your door and knocks and says they're they're there to fix the whatever, call down. Don't open the door. Call downstairs. Say, did you send someone up? There's somebody at my door. And absolutely practice that one. That's where most of the problems happen in a hotel,
right?
To be honest with you.
Well, you've traveled all over the world. What was the funniest or strangest thing that happened to you?
Oh, gosh.
That's got to be the toughest question I know,
It's
but
so
what
tough.
comes to your mind?
You know, usually I get what's your favorite place? And, I always have the answer for that. It's the last place I went. I'm very fickle that way.
You can think about it for a while. If you want me to ask you another question, we can come back to that.
Yeah, let's come back to that.
Okay.
I mean, I have lots of funny stories, I'm sure, but nothing's running across my mind.
All right. Well, how about talking about group trips for women?
Great.
Do you think that's a good way for a single woman to get started?
It's always a wonderful, viable way for any woman or man, who's single to meet other people and travel, especially if they're going to a destination they all have in common and they have an interest in. Obviously, you're going to make some lifetime friends. People like cruises for that reason. They are getting a little more affordable to do on your own. That used to be you were sort of penalized, but they're starting to initiate some programs that are a little bit more affordable for single cruising.
and on cruise ships, there's a lot of safety things you have to think about, too. They lose sight of the fact that this is a big city that they're in, and they have to follow the same rules.
That's come to light lately with a lot of incidents. It happens everywhere.
It does.
Where we live, where we go. It really doesn't matter. It's common sense.
Common sense, absolutely.
Common sense.
Well, what if a gal is reluctant to get involved with a group for a long period? How can she wet her feet on a group thing?
I'm not a huge group traveler. I'll admit I'm just too selfish about what I do with my time.
Right.
If I want to join in and do something, I do it. If I don't, and I want to sit down and read a whole book on the beach, then I'll sit down and read a whole book on the beach.
And you can go to eat when you want to.
And I can eat what I can eat dessert.
There.
I can eat dessert for dinner if I want to. I don't have to, so to be really honest with you, it might be a way to wet your feet, but I don't think you really get all, I'm all for group travel, and I've done it. I do it all the time. But I will tell you that I think if you really want to get the benefits of solo travel, that means
solo travel.
Solo travel. That's
and you could get on a bus tour to L.A. for one of these local trips.
Many day trips.
Well, why don't you tell us what you think are the best spots for women to go to that are traveling alone?
Spa destinations.
Spas.
Absolutely, because that's the ultimate self-indulgence, isn't it? Spending a whole day getting pampered. And, it's when you spa, you don't usually do it with other people. Even if you went with someone on a trip, you say, bye, see you later, I'm going to the spa, right?
Right.
If you're going to take an exercise class or yoga class, I just got back from Torrey Pines, and I did that. It was wonderful. That would be a perfect vacation. They have a beautiful spa there. You're less than a mile away from hiking in the reserve. How terrific. There are lots of people around. You can get a lead docent tour of the reserve. You're really not alone.
Right.
But you can eat right there in the dining room. You can have the beach right at the foot of the cliff. I mean, there's so many ways. But I think a spa trip, because it's ultimately a solo venture anyway, is a great way, and it's self-improvement.
Yes, it is. But what a lot of women really want to know is, where can they go to meet men? I mean, let's face it.
Gosh, I wish I knew the answer to that one. I could make a lot more money than travel writing if I had that one down. Well, I will say...
You must have found one or two.
I have found a few through the years, but that's just from being old. But I will tell you, part of it is in that confidence thing again. And I really think if you're confident, you're open to the surroundings, you smile, you make eye contact, you're going to meet
You're
people,
gonna
whether
meet
they're
'em.
men or women.
Well, you got it. Well, Kathy, this has been so much fun. And, would you believe it? We are out of time. I just can't believe how quickly it goes. I would love to have you on again. Will you come back and see me another time?
Absolutely, Jacqueline.
Well,
I
thank
would
you.
enjoy that.